We all have our story of why we are who we are, our life experiences, our upbringing, our traumas, our habits, all these things that have become ingrained in us. We all have what makes us who we are today. There's a lot of it is suffering. We have things that happened to us when we were so young that we weren't able to navigate them, and they stayed with us and left this mark. And what this mark has done has left us operating the world in a way that isn't allowing us to reach our full potential. We're here to unlearn, to really meet all those parts. And a lot of it is all these walls we've built up to protect ourselves. This fear of intimacy, because we're afraid of getting hurt. But what that does is that cuts us off from love, that cuts us off from deep, meaningful connections, from being vulnerable. And deep, meaningful connections are the most soul-soothing, soul-quenching thing. We long for it, but we're also afraid of it. So it's learning to take down all the barriers. And initially that is often taking down the barriers we have built against ourselves. We just cut ourselves off from our own feelings because we're trying to fit into these boxes, or this predefined idea of who we ought to be. Because we want to fit in, or we want to be liked, or we want to impress someone, or just because that's what we're taught how we should be like. But in so doing, we cut ourselves off from that real something that is at our core, our true essence, that is, unique to us, and we are creative creatures, and so we want to express ourselves. It is in our very nature, and it is in our it's a necessity for us to express that. And when we don't, it creates imbalances in the body. It creates mental and emotional blockages, spiritual blockages. It creates suffering. It might be just really small in this life where we feel like just something isn't quite right, or it might be really big and you might see it just negatively impacting your life. You keep falling into the wrong relationships, or the wrong, doing jobs you hate, in situations you don't want to be. These things that aren't very good for you keep happening over and over again. So it might be big like that, or it might just be a small, uneasy feeling within. And for some of it, it's like really, really big traumas that were happened. It could have been abuse, neglect, or for some of us, it's just small things, like a small remark that just really scarred us. I know when I was a child, I must have been around 4 or maybe 5. We were at our neighbor's house, and I took my t-shirt off because it was really hot, and then the older brother, he was like, ew, gross, and he put a top back on anyway. It just hurt so much. Just this just being shamed, for being a woman, for my body. So that stuck with me, and that was a big point to me, knowing that just of not, I'd always been this free child, and suddenly I was like, okay, there are certain parts of me that I can't express. Not all of me is acceptable. So that was a big thing, and that was, the beginning of when I started to question how I show up in the world and modify who I was for others. And then that's one event. But there's so many, and this all ties in with mental and emotional health. This capacity to be able to go in and recognize what's going on, feeling what's going on, allowing ourselves to feel it, or maybe feeling it in the body, maybe showing some loving kindness towards it, rather than creating this war within ourselves of being like, no, you shouldn't feel this, no, you shouldn't be that way. Just rejecting ourselves, which is just detrimental to our overall well-being and our capacity to thrive in this world and to live this deeply fulfilling life, and to create, and even just for the betterment of humanity, even just to be able to truly offer our gifts to the world. We need to come from this place of developing this loving relationships with ourselves. And it's also in those emotional times what will happen is we get all these thoughts. You know, often the emotion comes first, and then the thoughts start coming. And, you know, okay, a little bit of rationalizing is good, and within a certain setting it is particularly appropriate. However, you know, sometimes the thoughts just start feeding on themselves, and one thing leads to another, and we start spiraling out, you know, living worst case scenarios, or just really being at war with ourselves, or just really just freaking out and creating this inner like turmoil of ah! It's part of it is also learning to recognize that we are not our thoughts, you know, and our thoughts are just our thoughts. That doesn't mean they're real. So that is part of the process. So we're learning to recognize our feelings, to feel them, to show loving kindness towards them, and eventually to take action based on those truths, our real truths, you know. For me, like my creative process or my process in anything, you know, I have different periods throughout the month where, you know, sometimes I've got more energy and sometimes I've got less energy, and it's really learning to honor that, learning what working environments work for us, what don't, what kinds of relationships work for us, what don't, and really learning to prioritize our well-being, obviously so long as it doesn't come at the cost of harm to others. That is a important thing to remember, is we are all in this together. And usually when we get to those really core of who we are, for most of us, you know, one of our core desires is this feeling of union with others, this feeling of communion. But until we go on this journey to, you know, discover ourselves and to really meet ourselves, because for so many of us, we've never been given the opportunity to, or we never thought to go in and really meet ourselves and discover what's going on. I mean, when I was younger, I was so deeply disconnected from myself. I'd have all these emotions and things, and I'd you know, lash out on myself. But I didn't even know what it was, what the emotions, what the thoughts were. It was just like madness. Madness. So, yeah, it's going on the journey of discovering, of meeting ourselves, of loving ourselves, embracing ourselves, so that when we show up in the world, we can come from this place of really aligned, really centered, and there's something so powerful about living from your truth, and it gains this momentum of its own. But until we go in and do the work and meet ourselves and love ourselves and heal the wounds, we're never going to live these deeply fulfilling lives that we all crave. You know, we need to take care of our roots, take care of our core, take care of our inner world. And from that was where true sustainable growth can come. So, you know, key elements for that is the love, the loving kindness towards ourselves, the willingness to be honest with ourselves, and the willingness to be vulnerable and realize, you know, we're imperfect, but that is perfect. You know, that doesn't mean there's something wrong with us, but to express all of ourselves, so not just this one side, happy, positive part of our lives, but all of it, the you know, the fears, the doubts, the judgments. So this real vulnerability, because that is also how deep, meaningful connections are made. It's the vulnerability, it's the self-expression, you know, being creative and exploring, you know, really taking this childlike curiosity to explore who we are and explore the world, so that in turn we can come into our full potential. And a big thing for me is learning that we're not letting go of the notion of self-improvement and coming into this idea of self-actualizing. Because self-improvement implies there's something wrong with you, and there is nothing wrong with you. And already if you're coming from this place of thinking there's something wrong with you, you know, you're reinforcing that belief that there's something wrong with you. So it's actually, I like to use the term self-actualizing, because then you're recognizing that you're just stepping more and more to who you truly are. So yeah, self-actualizing, self-exploration, being playful, enjoying this beautiful life, recognizing that we are part of something larger, reaching out, connecting with others, creating community. Yeah, all these things. You know, stepping into love. and doing whatever we need to do to nurture ourselves and take care of ourselves so we may grow and also in turn contribute to the planet and have the positive impact we all desire. I'm here to help you become really intimate with yourself, to love yourself and to explore who you are, so as to explore and realize this full potential of you and step into that. Take the action you need to get there, because if I can do it, anyone can do it. I've got all these resources, this knowledge, this wisdom that I've learned over many, many years of studying and practicing with many teachers and masters and shamans. The tools are out there. You've just got to take them. Yeah, we're here for love. Sending love and hoping wherever you are, your life is flowing with ease.